Hello, everyone. Hi, Hackathon participants. Welcome to the second workshop of the Solana Hackathon. I hope you're all enjoying it so far. Please do reach out to myself or Dan on Discord by booking one-on-one calls at the bottom of the Hacker Pack if you have any questions about the Hackathon. Another note is to keep an eye out on our Discord and the Hacker Pack for new bounties that have recently been added and announced, with more to come. I'll link the Hacker Pack in the chat now. Okay, to kick off the second workshop, I will pass over to Lawrence from Extra P, and we can get started.
Great, thanks, Patrick. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the workshop. GM, hope you're all having a good day. Let me share my screen. We'll make a start. So, hopefully you can. Hopefully that's visible to you. Those slides are available at that link. And there's a QR code there as well. I'm sure somebody can put that in the chat if not. Okay, so a little bit about Extra P, just to give you some links. We're a development company. We do auditing, lots of education. I think I probably know quite a few of you from the boot camps we've been doing. We've done lots with Encode. We've also got a Discord server there, so please join that. All right, so what I want to talk about today, start off with just general introduction about inscriptions. And then we'll start to look, we'll give the background to tokens on Solana and what the sort of the landscape was before inscriptions came along. Then we'll see how inscriptions have impacted Solana and how they are done. We'll look at ways to create them. And also that's either via sort of existing projects. Then we'll look at how to do that programmatically. And I'll finish off just giving you some tips about hackathons generally. I have some general tips that I think you might find useful. Okay, so unfortunately, I can't see the chat if I have this like that. Okay, I'm just going to have to come back to the chat occasionally. Okay. All right, so what are inscriptions? Well, they came about really due to a problem with Bitcoin. There was people wanted to be able to tokenize assets, and we've seen that this is possible on many blockchains, but on Bitcoin this was more difficult because obviously we don't have smart contracts there. So there was this desire to work out a way to do that, and this is what inscriptions. How inscriptions first came about, and they were called ordinals there, and a way was found and a standard was set up to add these to Bitcoin. And the way that this was done was adding them to the smallest amount, the smallest denomination of Bitcoin, so adding them to a Satoshi. And then that brought in the idea generally of inscriptions, and they became very popular. They a lot of hype around them, and so then other chains wanted to do something similar, although it wasn't necessarily the case that these other chains needed to do this. So the motivation for having something like inscriptions on other chains wasn't necessarily there. There wasn't necessarily the technical problem that there was with Bitcoins, but other chains started to introduce them anyway. Now, if you look at how we tokenize assets generally on chains, what we will tend to do is to have some digital asset on a decentralized file system like IPFS or Filecoin or whatever. And then we would have that address, we would link that and put that link in an NFT. So the NFT provides the proof, the proof of the ownership, and then there's a link from that NFT, and maybe there's metadata as well, and that then links to the file storage system and the actual digital asset that you're claiming ownership of. And the pattern that was used, we use this because it is cheap to store the data off chain. So that's why we would put it onto something like Arweave or IPFS. And we then put maybe a minimal amount of data on chain, just enough to provide the link and to show the ownership. And NFTs were were kind of co-opted to do this. The idea of an NFT really is just that it's a token that is a unique token. So it shows it has a unique identity, and then you can own that. And then people, as a use case, then use these to then link to digital assets. And that became such a popular use case, and that's really how people see NFTs generally. Okay, so what Inscriptions were trying to do was to try to bring that type of use case, the idea of storing some digital assets, but storing those on chain in the case of Bitcoin, because there was little else that could be done. And so other chains then started to try to follow this idea. And on Ethereum, a way to do this was then to put it into a transaction. So we put some extra data into a transaction, which gives us some metadata about, say, a digital asset, or it could be it actually provides the actual digital asset itself. So you can see there's an example here of how that will be done. And the thing to bear in mind about this is that there's an interaction going on. So we have the chain itself, so the on-chain data. We may have off-chain data, so we could still use decentralized file storage systems. But also then we have projects that are looking at this data, that can index this data and then can use that data. And so we get a mixture of all of these three things when we are using Inscriptions. And now, as I say, they became very popular. I mean, they became popular on Bitcoin, and then they spread to other chains. This is a graph from of some EVM chains from December, and you can see there's massive spikes, and this was caused by the implementation of Inscriptions and people using those. So you can see, getting up to, well, in a sort of an excess of 10 or 20 million transactions being added a day just to do Inscriptions. And this did actually, it was interesting that this did provide some load testing for layer 2. So layer 2s are there to help scalability on, for example, on Ethereum. And then so suddenly when we had all of these extra transactions, that was a way that we could test this. And they worked more or less. Some had problems, but some managed to cope with that. All right, so let's concentrate, let's think more about Solana. So on Solana, I think there is perhaps less reason or less technological need for something like this, because there is already a good pattern for storing digital assets, by storing them off chain. But what we can do with Inscriptions is to provide some of that at least on chain. But I think part of the motivation behind this really has just been to follow the trend and the general excitement about Inscriptions that we've seen on other chains, and then people wanted to do this, get this done on Solana as well. What it does mean that because we're moving things from off-chain on-chain, it does mean that this data then becomes part of the consensus. Now, as we'll see when we look at some examples, it doesn't necessarily mean that the digital asset itself is then immutable. They can be immutable or they can be immutable. So you still have an option that the digital asset could be changed. Obviously, there are issues around this, and we've seen this with NFTs. The idea that NFTs could be changed, you could change things off-chain. So I think that's the whole area around transparency with your users that needs to be thought of. And as I say here, we are relying on third-party programs to help with the data of Inscriptions. It's not just the case that everything is going to be happening on chain. There are these third-party programs, as we shall see, that are taking this data and providing marketplaces, etc. Okay. All right. Let me just quickly look at chat before I carry on. Okay. Nobody's asking any questions. Okay, that's fine. All right. So let me carry on. So a little bit of revision then about tokens on Solana. So one thing Solana was more recent than, say, Ethereum, so they benefited from the experience that people had with Ethereum. One big case of blockchains is tokens. So these were happening on Ethereum. On Solana, they reasoned that, well, rather than get everybody to write the same piece of code, time and time again, and put it onto the chain to implement token functionality, why don't we provide a library? In fact, why don't we provide a program to handle tokens for everyone? And then you don't need to write your own. You can just provide the accounts. And I'm hoping that everyone here knows the sort of the background to this reasonably well. The token program allows us to create fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens. So all the sort of common use cases that you would want, but it's done via this particular program that Solana has provided. And the way that this all fits together is perhaps slightly different or slightly more complex than you might expect. So I'll just talk through this because it comes into how inscriptions are being used as well. So we have the idea of the token program. That's the program that is going to be handling the tokens and all the functionality for them. And what you need to do if you want to create a token is to when you create the token, you create what is called the mint account. So this is an account that is set up that has all of the details for that particular token. It's not holding details about holders of the token. It's just holding more general details and has things like the authorities involved in that token, who can mint and who can freeze accounts, that kind of thing. Decimal places, all that kind of general, that metadata that you would want, that you need when you're thinking about when you have a token. And then what happens when a user wants to hold a token, then an account is created for that user, which then links to the mint account. So this will be created by the system program, and so an account will be created for that particular user, which will hold that user's balance. It will also can hold delegation details as well, so you get two data accounts that are involved. There's a mint account, which is applies to everyone, and then there's the token account, which is specific to a particular user and to a particular token. Okay, and there's an article there if you need more details about that. Okay, now if we take this, that's just generally how we do tokens. But then if you take it further and you think about the use case that we have for NFTs and the use case we have for tokenizing assets, and where we want to be able to digitize assets, create maybe we're going to have pictures and we're going to create collections of those, and they're going to be put onto a marketplace. We're going to have auctions, all those kind of things. This is a lot of extra detail that we have got some standards about now on Solana, and we've got projects such as Metaplex that came in and worked out how to do this, and so we get this kind of these kind of structures. So as I said, we have the idea of the mint account. That's something that is specific to a particular token. We have the token account, which is then specific to a user and a token. And then what we want to do is we want to add extra details to this, because we want all this extra details about this particular asset that we've digitized. And so for that, we have this metadata, all sorts of metadata, and in order to use this, we have a PDA. So this is a particular type of it's an account with a program derived address, which is there because we want programs to be able to sign for this, but it's an extra account that then gets linked and allows us to add some data about this particular NFT. So I'm talking, when I'm talking NFT here, I'm talking in the more general sense here. I'm talking about with the idea of tokenizing assets now, not just a very simple NFT. So you can see then we get all of this potentially this other data, and we have things like off-chain details then. So this is going to give us links then to the off-chain data. So that's the kind of the standard that we have then for the typical NFT use case that you see on Solana, and supported by Metaplex, etc. Okay, so that's where we're starting from, and then we're sort of thinking about, well, we're going to add to this, or we're going to change this with inscriptions. So what we do with inscriptions is we move some of this, some of these details back on chain. So we want to get them in an actual account. So we're coming back rather than having off-chain objects. Then we're going to start to put more things on chain and associate that with these various accounts. And that does mean that there is a cost for this, and that's, I mean, the reason that we took things off chain was to make things cheaper. If we move things back on chain, then we're going to have a cost involved because we need an account to hold that data. And as you know, if we have an account, then we have to pay rent for that account. So we're going to be paying for that. The amount we're going to pay will depend upon the size of the object. So if you imagine, instead of having some simple JPEG off-chain, if we're going to bring this on-chain, then store it, then depending on how large that is, we'll be paying more for this. So you can see the example price is just to give you a general idea of the price of doing these things. Okay, now it has got rather complex. This whole area is a little bit complicated, and it's been quite hard to, there's not very many resources around this, not very many explanations of how this works. We have some projects that allow you to create inscriptions, but it's quite difficult to get details of what is actually happening. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to describe this to you, and I hope it's going to make sense. But we do have a number of different use cases, and you may need to go through this a few times to get it sorted out what is actually happening with inscriptions. It's not quite as straightforward as it could be, I guess. So one extra feature about this is another thing that we got from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin introduced this standard called the BRC20 standard. So this was invented, again, it was like a token standard. So it was invented for these, the inscriptions for the ordinals that we had on Bitcoin. And then that was brought over. And so on Solana, we have the SPL20 standard. So we have that idea. We have the idea of inscriptions being involved with a fungible token. But we also have the idea of this original use case of inscriptions being involved with a non-fungible token as well. And as you can see from this, this is from Libreplex. So Libreplex is one of the big project that got involved in this, I suppose. They've provided these 4 examples here. So the top 2 of what I've just described, and then we also have this potential that even if we're bringing the asset on chain and we're storing this in an account, it doesn't mean that it's immutable. So we have the idea of mutable inscriptions as well as mutable ones. So this is something that the user can choose. And then also, because this is a digital asset, so what you actually want that asset to be is really up to you. Again, though, the cost of storing this is probably going to be a factor in what you would actually use, but you could have that some kind of multimedia as well. But the general idea behind this is that we would add another account, and a PDA will create a PDA which is going to be there to hold this inscription data. And now that could be, it could just be holding some metadata, or it could be holding some metadata plus some assets data as well, some image, for example. So there's you've got the different different choices there. Excuse me. Okay, so this is just a little bit about SPL20s. I'm not going to say much more about those, but with these, the idea is that we're doing these inscriptions, we're associating those with a fungible token. Now, with inscriptions, the way that they are created is that they have a number. This goes back to the idea when they were created on Bitcoin, where we had this idea of the ordinal. So they effectively have an index. So when you create an inscription, you're getting a particular index. And part of the reason, I guess, that people want to do this is that then they can add value by saying, well, the lower the index you have with this particular thing, the more valuable this particular asset is. And then this all then ties into the sort of the speculation and the trading of these assets. So with an SPL20, what we can do then is associate for a particular fungible token, we can then associate a number of these indexes with that people then can buy and sell. So it's a way of you can kind of split out that into one fungible token into a number of parts by doing that. Okay, so the general process of doing this on Solana is that what we do typically is we start off by creating a token, whether that's a non-fungible token or a fungible token, and then we inscribe on top of that. So we add the inscriptions onto that once we have our existing token. And there are, I'm sure you're aware, there are already some tokens. I think there's Sols and Lads, I think, on Solana that are these special SPL20 tokens that have that include inscriptions. Okay. So yeah, this is I took this from an article by Nova Research. I got links to that as well, which is quite a good article. It's worth having a look at. But this shows you that there is a difference between these types of things. So this is one of the things that can be a little bit confusing, is that inscriptions are being used in sort of a couple of ways. We've got the idea of them being used with NFTs and some kind of digital asset. We've also got the idea of them being used with a fungible token, and this sort of the BRC20, SPL20 type of idea there. Now, if you have a look at them actually being used, you can go to Libreplex. So Libreplex was set up. It's really an alternative to Metaplex, and it was set up with particularly around the idea of the fair launch, which is an idea that's been around, in DeFi for quite a while, I guess. But it was the idea that we're emphasizing the community. We're not going to give sort of special rights to a certain small group of people and allow them a good deal on some initial tokens. We're going to open up things up to the community. Everything is going to be launched fairly. So that's Libreplex have kind of emphasized this, and that's how that has been set up. And then part of what they do, as you can see, is to provide inscriptions as well. So what you're seeing here is examples where people have set up NFTs, and then they've inscribed these. So we've got, for example, if you see this NOS here, the picture of this bird, we've got an example where that has been set up as an NFT, and then we've used inscriptions to create indexes of these that people can then buy. And you can see just a couple of examples here with the two different indexes, but obviously you could buy and sell all of the examples of these and so on for all these different NFTs. Okay, so the complicated diagram. So again, thanks to Nova Research for doing this. I hope this is going to make some sense. It does get a little bit complicated. But as I say, the idea, if you want to do something like this, you start off with some deployment, which could be a fungible or a non-fungible token. So you create that initially. They also have this idea of the hash list. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I think with the hash list, what we have is that this then is a way of collecting together addresses, and then. But I think this is something that the third-party projects are handling. But anyway, we start off with the idea of the deployment of some type of token. And then the second thing that we do is we then inscribe on this token. So this is where we start to create these indexes and those things that we're going to buy and sell. And so what is happening is that we're creating this possibility, and then this can be picked up by projects such as Libreplex to then create a marketplace and sort of and set up and display the different indexes for this particular token. And what is happening is that when we're creating the inscription, we're adding this into an account. So this is where the PDA comes in. Now, there will be an inscriber. So what would typically be the case that you would create, you create your token, that would be deployed, and then you would use some tool to do the inscription, and then that would get associated with that particular token. And then once that has been done and you've created all of these, and we have all of these extra accounts being created for these particular inscriptions, then this can be picked up, for example, by a marketplace, and the marketplace can then find those particular accounts and then use that to buy and sell those particular inscriptions. And then there could be links then to other parts of the ecosystem as well. If you look at this hash list, what you will see is something like this. So this is one I looked at earlier today, where someone had created an NFT, and then they had this hash list, and if you looked at the details of the things in the hash list, these are various addresses. If you look in a block explorer at those addresses, you will see things like this. So there will be these particular accounts, but then they are all linked back to a particular NFT, which you can see on the left-hand side there. Okay. Now, some of the tools that we can use to help with this, a tool that has been set up is Solscribe, which allows you, if you have a token, it allows you to then create to actually do the inscriptions on that. So you've got the as it says here, inscribe Solana NFT. So if you've created an NFT, you can then use this tool to actually do the inscriptions for that NFT. You can also use it to mint as well, I think. Well, this is for the SPL20, I guess. And yeah, so it's a tool that you can use. So we've got these projects such as Libreplex, Solscribe, that will help you with this process, so that you don't have to do it programmatically. But we will look at how to do it programmatically in a second. Okay, and then it's also on Libreplex, you have this bridge as well, where you can swap back and forth between some of these assets, so some of these tokens. So you can. So the example here is the sols. So this was created as an SPL 20 token. And you can then bridge that back to the original NFT, etc. So they have ways of doing that. I don't know much more about it than that, just other than that this bridge does exist. Okay, let me just go back then and have a look at if there are any questions. So the question for Ahmed is, you can't have your own custom token. So yeah, so the way that Solana has decided to do this is that they have this program that everyone can use, and you use this program to create your own custom token. So you can, if the functionality you get is the same as you would have on Ethereum, but you don't have to write a contract to do it. You just effectively supply the data for your custom token, and then the program that handles that, the actual code, has already been written for you and already exists on Solana. So you use that. Okay. The mint authority, that is set up. Yeah, that is set up when you create the NFT. When you create the token, then you set up the mint authority as part of that. So you get the mint token account, and then within that you have the mint authority. I don't know what happens with Metaplex, but that could well be correct, that it is going to be the PDA associated with that. Okay, and you've got the slides there. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. As I say, it is a bit complex, so you may need to go through this a few times, but I'll carry on. So, all right. So, yeah. So Libreplex have, there's a project that you can use to do this. Metaplex are also involved. So Metaplex were the sort of the standard project that was there to allow you to create NFTs and add all this extra functionality that I spoke about earlier. And so they've also added support then for inscriptions. And you can see here what they allow you to do here. So they're allowing you to add metadata. So this is the idea. I think this is more like the SPL20 idea, where you're adding metadata, but not necessarily some digital asset. So you're just adding metadata to a particular token. And then also this direct data storage is the idea that where you do have some actual asset that you want to get stored in an account, and then that will get associated with a particular token as well. So yeah, so there's links there to that and details about that. Now, if we what I've spoken about so far is really just to show you some of the tools that you could use. So the easiest way to get involved with inscriptions on Solana really is just to use those tools. So use Libreplex, use SolScribe, use Metaplex, and you can use that to create, excuse me, your inscriptions. But this is a hackathon, and so maybe what you want to do is to use this, maybe do some composability and integrate something that you're working on, integrate inscriptions into that. So I'm going to show you some ways to do that, or outline some ways to do that. One useful thing that has been supplied by Libreplex is this sample UI, which is a repo. There's a link to it there. And this is some code that allows you then to interact with the Libreplex program that will create inscriptions for you and add all that inscription functionality. So if what you want to do, if you've got some project and it's enough for you to add something into the UI and use that to interact with the Libreplex program, then this would probably be useful for you. What it means is you can create the various instructions, put those into a transaction, send that transaction off to the node, and that will then go to the Libreplex program and do all of the functionality for you. So this is perhaps the easiest way to sort of interact with them programmatically if you want to do that. So this is just a screenshot from the repo showing you some of the components that are available. But you can have a look at that, look through the repo, and look through the code, and then obviously customize that to whatever you want to do. But that's, if you want to go more directly, then what we can look at now is the actual program that is involved, or one of the programs that you can use to interact or to create inscriptions. So this there's a link there to the Libreplex program. There's its address as well. I just printed out a little bit of code from that. Actually, let me see if I can share this. So hopefully you can see. Am I still share? Yeah, you can still see that. Okay, so this is what the actual code looks like in the program that Libreplex have written for this. You can see it's an Anchor program. They've got a, this is v3, and I think so the v2 may be deprecated now, but what you can see here, for example, we're creating the PDA. So this is the context for initializing the account. So it's, as you can see here, it's calling the account macro. We're doing the init, etc., setting up the payer for this, and you can see there it's a PDA because we have this seeds part here, and the way that we set up that is we've got this string that we're using as part of the seed, and also the key that is involved with this as well. So this is the way that we can create the unique accounts or the unique addresses for our PDAs. And then hopefully, yeah, you can see here you have this concept there, keeping track of the inscription count here. So you can see on line 124 that this is going through and tracking the inscriptions as they are being added, and there's lots of details here, obviously, about all the security and getting the various accounts set up correctly there. But that's what the code looks like. So if you're wanting to either interact with this directly or maybe copy, do something similar, then there's an example here within this repo that you can have a look at to do that. And then it emits events here saying that what has been happening. Okay, let me go back to the slides. So Metaplex have also done that as well. So they've got their own program. Let's have a look at that. This one, this is not. I don't think this. Yeah, this is not an Anchor program. So this is the kind of the bare metal one. So we've got all the lovely serialized, etc. in there. But what is useful about this, this is a link to the instruction part of the program. What's useful, I think, to have a look at this is it shows you the accounts that you need. So if you wanted to interact with this gives you an idea of the accounts. Now remember that with these programs, as opposed to the Anchor, we have to be careful when we're sending in the accounts. The order of the accounts matters. So this is showing you here for this particular instruction what accounts we're expecting to be passed into the program, and it's what you would expect. The various authorities for that, the mint account, so which token this actually applies to, the system program we need because we're going to be creating accounts, etc. So yeah, this gives you an idea, and you can see here the different functionality that is available. So initializing and then writing data into the account, changing authorities, etc. Okay. So that also may be useful for you. So you've got a couple of choices if you want to interact programmatically with the different programs. Okay. If you want to see what this looks like, this is a transaction I found, but this was on version 2, I think. This is on Libreplex, but this was version 2. But it gives you an idea anyway of the accounts that have been added or that are being used, that are being passed to that program. And you can see here the data that is going in. So this is the image, the PNG that is going in for this particular inscription. So they're storing this, they're using this to store some data on chain. Okay. And there's another example there if you want to follow that link. So the basic idea behind this then is that if you want to interact, programmatically get involved and use inscriptions, you want to go beyond just using the Libreplex UI to do this. Then the choices you have, as I say, is to you can either copy the sample UI and do something similar. So you create the instructions and the transaction and send that in. Or if you want to get involved with the inscription programs directly from your own program, then you can use cross-program invocation to do that. So that, that's just the standard way that you would then interact with the programs. But this is how you would, with the CPI, that is how you could do composability if you want to program the inscriptions. And yeah, we've got the program address there. Okay, so that's the end of what I want to say about inscriptions. As I said at the beginning, there's very few resources. It is very new generally. The different chains that are doing inscriptions all do things differently, so you can't really rely on the other resources from other chains being very much use. They may well be quite different in how they implement inscriptions. It's just the general idea that has been really copied across the chains. But I've given you all of the links that I have found. There's some articles linked in there that may help you. It's worthwhile going through it a few times, and particularly getting the difference between the different types of tokens that you want to inscribe. So whether it's an NFT or a fungible token, so getting sort of to grips with that, and maybe just use something like Libreplex and Solscribe to try this out, and then have a look at the accounts that have been created for it, and that will probably give you a good idea of what's going on. Okay. Okay, so doesn't need any more questions, so I'll go on to some general tips then about hackathons that I hope you will find useful. So time is your enemy. This is, I know your hackathon is a little bit more extended than, say, a weekend hackathon, but even so, you never really have enough time in hackathons, and so you are going to need to take shortcuts and make some trade-offs with what you are doing. You also need to be efficient as a team, so you need to get those dynamics sorted out, have the right people doing different roles and working together efficiently. What you're leading up to as for at the end of the hackathon is a submission, and that is that is vitally important. That's really everything that you're producing. It's no good having a wonderful project if you don't submit that. Then you're not going to be recognized. Your project is not going to be recognized. So make sure you have a very good idea of what is needed for the submission, and you have all of that prepared in advance. It's not pleasant if you coming up to the deadline and you suddenly realize that you need to create a video, you've forgotten about it. These things tend to take time, so make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get that submission sorted out. Other tips to help you work efficiently: choose a common setup and a common tool chain amongst the team. Don't all be using different tools. That will add friction to your work. So decide on something and everybody use the same thing. Make sure that you're going to need to have a demo of your project. So make sure when you've got that demo that it works on more than one machine, because it's very likely that for the bad luck, that machine that you've been running it on has been working fine. When you want to demonstrate it, will fail for some reason. So make sure you've got it running on many machines as a backup. Get all of the ecosystem links that you need and get those in a shared document so that you're not scrabbling around for these things. So everybody is aware of those. You can get to the faucets, you can get to the RPC nodes, etc., without any problems. And then also make the most of the sponsors and the mentors, particularly if they're going to be judging your project, because if you go to them and tell them what you are doing and get feedback and show whoever the sponsor that you're taking note of their feedback and working to what they want, that's really going to help them. You're probably going to get a much better result when they're judging. And if they are aware of your project, they may well then it's going to make it easier for them to judge it. Which is what you want. You want to make the judge's life as easy as possible. So work closely with them as much as you can, and certainly ask them for help, because that's what they're there for. So that's something. In terms of what you decide to do, keep the scope small. This, I think, is really one of the most important tips I could give generally. You're going to need to get something working. So you're going to need to keep the scope small for that. You can always add more functionality to your project later. So start small and add other pieces to it as you go along. It's you don't want to have something that is, all singing, all dancing with lots of bells and whistles, but you can't actually make a demo of it because you've made the scope too large. Also, it's demotivating. If you have something up and running, that will help motivate the team. So, use that approach. Start small and then build out. And as part of that, avoid the temptation to generalize about the project. I know developers tend to do this, and it's looked on as being good development technique, but don't do that. Think very much of the functionality that you need for this particular hackathon that you need to show the judges. One thing, make use of composability, integration. You could build a whole project just by linking other people's work together, and that is a valid thing to do. So you can get some very interesting things by doing that. So make sure you're aware of what's out there in the ecosystem and how you can take advantage of that. Don't optimize your code. It's unlikely that that's going to be important. You can do that later. It's just going to waste time. If you like test-driven development, all well and good, but don't go overboard. Just have tests, in the same way that you're keeping the scope of your code small, keep the scope of your tests small. So just check the functionality that you need. Don't make them the more general as you would if you were doing a normal project. It may well be the case that you don't have time to build certain things so you can always mock up things that you can't build. That will be seen in a positive light, I think, as long as it's something feasible. So you could mock interaction from your particular project to some other program, some exchange or something. As long as it makes sense that you could actually do that. So as long as you're not cheating in some way, but that could show off, the potential for how your project could expand in the future, which also will be seen positively. And automate as much as you can of the development process. Again, because time is your enemy. So do as much as you can for that. Okay, and that's the end of my talk, the end of my tips. Good luck, everyone. I look forward to seeing some interesting projects. Again, there's the link to these slides. I hope you will find those useful. So good luck. Enjoy the hackathon, and certainly reach out to Encode if you have questions. and make the most of those resources as well. Okay, I'll just quickly answer the questions. The burning tokens, yeah, that's part of the program. There are ways to do that. The project idea, I didn't, yeah, I don't know. You're going to have to think of that, something like that. But just remember how inscriptions are being used. Look at how they're being used at the moment, and see if that is something that you could leverage. Maybe you could involve something else, do some composability, and perhaps look at the way some tokens are being used now, but that aren't using inscriptions, and seeing if you could get some interesting functionality by adding inscriptions to them. Okay, there you go. That's me finished. I'll pass back to Patrick. Thanks, everyone, and best of luck for the hackathon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone to reach out to myself or Dan with any questions. You can reach out on Discord or book one-to-one calls using the link at the bottom of the Hacker Pack. And again, yes, that is all from me. I'll see you again tomorrow for the last session of the week.